All right, everybody. First of all, welcome. Good morning. So I want to take a few minutes and just talk about our action plan. This is a document that you guys are going to see in full and kind of give your feedback on. It actually came as a result of all the different committees and suggestions and pieces that you guys sent. It kind of feels like we need to set the stage a little bit for this because it has been a little bit of a gap and kind of due to the COVID stuff and how we've had to meet virtually, there may feel like there's some disjointedness here. So I wanted to go ahead and, like I said, just give a little background here. Now, for Chapter 5, we've basically already met and talked a little bit with our committee chair for our WASC visit. Um, and you'll see it's broken into different critical learner needs. Now, I'm not going to read this to you. You're going to all have a chance to kind of explore this and take a look at it. But I do just want to go through a couple pieces that you as teachers may pick out right away. Now, the first one in Learner Need 2, this talks about instructional materials. And alignment. And this is the first couple things, common grading practices. Now we've talked about this and we've been working on this, especially within subject teams. None of these things should come as much of a surprise. But these are things that we've kind of started. We've continued PD on research-based grading with the Grading for Equity series, and we're still working on some of that. A lot of you have already done common curriculum outlines and common assessments, etc. So take a look at this. None of this should come as any kind of surprise. One of the things that did come out of our conversations, though, was vertical alignment. And, what does it look like to move from, English 1 to English 2, for example? And there was also some discussion about, some alignment with the middle schools as well. But those were things that came out of your discussions within your groups. This is one too. I just want to take a second to talk about this. Now, when we had talked about this, there was concern for the middle kid. There was concern for the AP kid. There was concern for the SES students, the socio-economically disadvantaged as well. When we look at this, what you'll see is we're focusing on English learners. Now, part of this came when we discussed this with our WASC chair. We had kind of said we were going to focus on a lot of different groups, and then it was the comment was essentially, well, if you're focusing on many groups, how are you focusing on any groups? And so we decided to kind of scale down and focus on the English learner because many of the strategies that are good for English learners are actually good for all kids. Also, the English learners tend to have a good cross-section of students who are socioeconomically disadvantaged as well. So that's why you'll see the focus on the EL students more so than, like I said, I think in the conversations we talked about all the different subgroups that we're looking at, but we tended to focus more on EL with our action items because of the reasons I just specified. So there's that piece there. And again, I don't want to read this to you. You'll take a look at it. Some of this stuff that you won't necessarily be aware of, like Lexia, that's some things that we will be getting more data on that as kids access that, and we're actually planning more touches on that soon. Aries Analytics, you have some access to that, but we'll be flushing more of that and training you more on what that means and what that looks like. Really, the other stuff doesn't necessarily hit you too much or come as too much of a surprise, but those were some things that were just some potential questions that might come up. And then over here, Critical Learning 4, there wasn't a ton that necessarily impacts you a lot, other than we are going to start looking more at some equity, and that's a district-wide thing, especially over the summer in light of what occurred. We've started some of these trainings. I know in science we had some stuff with gender. There was some PD on that. And so we've actually got a small group of teachers who are meeting already to talk about some of the different things with race and how do we have these conversations and what does that look like. And so that's something that you'll see in our action plan, is doing more of that, just so that you guys are more comfortable and learn how to address some of those things. And obviously, there's a thread of challenge success in here. We'll continue to do those types of things. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know that's where some of the questions might pop up and where they're coming from. You'll have time to read the document and comment, and it's kind of a living document right now. We're still adjusting and tweaking. But anyway, thank you guys for the time, and have a good morning.